Alright, so here we are, my favorite soap calculator on the internet, Soap Calc. It does use a lot of Dr. Bob's soap calculations as far as I can tell. And let's see, what are some of the things you need to know? I will be using sodium hydroxide, so I've already selected that. Weight of oils, I'm using 6 pounds. I have a mold that holds about 6 pounds and makes massive bars. And since I'm making some soap for my mother-in-law, I want to go ahead and have generous bars. Besides, it makes it easier to grasp it in the shower. Water is a percentage of oils, 38, that's the default setting, and that's what I use. Superfat, that's also a default, and that's what I'm pretty comfortable with, especially after reading some of Dr. Bob's books about superfatting and what he suggests. Fragrance, I'm going to take that part out. I'm not going to be using any fragrance oil. I'm going to be using some lemon rind and some rosemary. And then to pick my oils, of course I can go over here and read all the stats about hardness, cleansing, conditioning, all that. But I already know I'm going to be using coconut oil. Where is coconut oil? The 68, which you can find pretty easily in the store. Not the 92 that you tend to have to buy from soap making stores. And then olive oil, not to be confused with extra virgin olive oil, which has more of the stuff taken out, more of the grit that just happens. Pumice would have more of the grit and is much better for soap making purposes, but I just have a basic olive oil. Everything I'm using today is kosher, so if you're wondering, yes. And then, right down to rosemary. It's all good. And then, what's the other one? Grapeseed oil. I like to throw a little bit of that in there every now and then. All right. And then, I don't figure it based on how many pounds of soap. I figure it on the percentage. And I tend to have to play around with this a little bit. And when I hit calculate recipe, it will do the rest of it for me. But as you can see so far, this soap calculator is pretty simple. So I think I'm going to go with about 40% coconut oil, which means I have 60% still to do. So maybe 40 here and 20 here. Just throwing in some numbers to see. I'm not going on any of my notes right now because that's not how you would start, right? So when I hit calculate recipe, it went ahead and totaled the percentages and then figured out how many pounds of each kind of soap I would need. And then I say view and print recipe, and it opens a new tab where you can go ahead and put the recipe name in there at the top if you wanted to. It tells you all of the details that you started with. Also figures out the saturated to unsaturated ratio, which right there, that tells me might be a little bit of a soft bar. I might want to go higher. Figures out how much water you're going to need, how much lye exactly you'll need, and then 6 pounds of oil. Well, that's what I've already talked about. Soap weight before cold process cure or hot process cook. That's what it should be if you were to weigh it while it was still in process, before you've cooked off some of the water, gotten it more ready to either go into the mold to cure and be surrounded by insulation, or after you've cooked it for several hours and it's, before you cook it for several hours for the hot process cook. The main difference between cold process and hot process is this piece right here. And the percentages we put in on those oils, and then the part that I'm interested here, the range. The hardness is actually not too bad, 41. Cleansing at 27, so it's going to be more cleansing than that 22. So I might want to tweak it so it's a little bit less cleansing. Well, but when would it be bad to have it more cleansing? Well, you don't want to use something even remotely close to an engine degreaser when you're in the shower, right? Got it. So, what would be more cleansing than a typical bar of soap? Engine degreaser. I don't know what the number would be for actual engine degreaser, but I would like to try to tweak that and get it down a little bit more. Conditioning, fairly decent. Bubbly, it's going to bubble a little bit, but it won't go overkill. Creamy, not so much. Iodine, INS. INS, I like to keep this number in Dr. Bob's range here. And then other details, if it matters to you. Alright, so I'm going to go back to that first tab so I can tweak these. Say, well, maybe I want a little bit more here. And maybe just a little bit less here. Why am I putting in grapeseed oil? It's pretty good about keeping the rind from being a problem. Oh, and I should have hit multiple tabs because what did it do? It just loaded it in the same tab I had open. Alright, but let's look. Cleansing is higher now. Alright, so let's go back to the drawing board and say, oh, maybe not so much there. Maybe a 35, and then that was 20, maybe 45 here. And I want multiple tabs so I can compare, calculate, and then open it in that new tab. And then, what am I looking for? I'm looking for cleansing. See, it went down when I reduced the amount of coconut oil. Coconut oil actually makes really good cleansing bars, which is why I keep using it, because I have teenagers in the house. But maybe tweak it just a little bit more, maybe down to 30. And I have plenty of olive oil, so that's okay. But I may bump that up to 25 and just, whoops, have to make it equal 100. 25 just to see what happens. Calculate and view. Cleansing is now down to 20. Woo. That means it probably won't strip off your fingernail. I mean your fingerprints like some fashion shampoo I used back when I was a teenager. The hardness is still decent. Conditioning seems to have gone up. Did it actually go up? Conditioning was 58, 50. Yes, so that is more conditioning. I think I'll go with this one, guys. Alright, so I'm going to jot this down, and then I'm going to start weighing out oil. And then you'll see me again when I'm zesting some... No, when I'm overweighing, and then I'll be zesting some of the lemons into the oil, so I can kind of have a more kitchen-y, bright, summery kind of a soap that I'm making today. Alright, see you in the next video. That is how to come up with a quick soap recipe.